You learned very early how to disappear, not physically, but emotionally. You learned how to stay quiet, how to take up less space, how to read the room before speaking, how to sense when your presence was tolerated, but not truly welcomed. You didn't learn this because you were weak. You learned it because it worked. Because every time you tried to express yourself, every time you needed comfort, every time you reached outward, you were met with silence, distraction, dismissal, or subtle irritation, so you adapted. You became easy, low maintenance, independent beyond your years. And somewhere along the way, a paradox formed inside you. You learned to be invisible, to stay safe, but now you ache deeply to be seen. You feel it in quiet moments, in conversations where you're present but not felt, in relationships where you listen more than you speak, in rooms where you exist but somehow don't arrive. And the most painful part? You don't even know how to ask for visibility anymore, because needing feels dangerous, taking up space feels selfish, and being fully seen feels unfamiliar. This is the hidden wound of growing up unseen and unheard, and it doesn't fade with age. It echoes. The psychology has a name for this experience. It's called emotional neglect. Not abuse, not chaos, not obvious harm, but absence. Emotional neglect occurs when a child's internal world, their thoughts, feelings, fears, and joys, is not consistently acknowledged or mirrored. And here's the key. A child does not need overt cruelty to feel invisible. They only need emotional absence. No one asking, "How do you feel?" No one noticing when you withdraw. No one reflecting back who you are. This leads to what many clinicians refer to as the ghost child archetype, the child who is physically present but emotionally unseen, the child who learns to observe rather than participate, the child who becomes hyper-aware of others while slowly losing awareness of themselves. Another critical concept here is mirroring. Healthy development requires mirroring. When a caregiver reflects a child's emotions back to them. You're sad. You're excited. That hurt you. Without mirroring, the child cannot form a stable sense of identity, which leads to the third concept, the void. The void is not emptiness, it's unformed identity. It's what happens when a child grows up without consistent emotional acknowledgement. The internal sense of "I exist" never fully solidifies, so instead of a self, there is vigilance, adaptation, silence. The brain rewires around survival instead of expression. The cost of this adaptation is not loud, it's quiet. It's the grief no one sees, the grief of not knowing if your voice matters, the grief of doubting your own emotional reality, the grief of feeling strangely empty, even when surrounded by people. Philosopher Martin Buber spoke of the difference between I-it and I-thou relationships. To be truly seen is to be met as a thou, a full subject, not an object. But when you grow up unseen, you internalize an I-it relationship with yourself. You become something to manage, to minimize, to control. And so the core fear emerges. If I speak, I won't be heard. Not, they'll reject me. Not, they'll hurt me. But something colder. They won't even notice. This is where the past reveals itself. Because the child who learned to disappear becomes an adult who survives quietly. You might apologize for existing, struggle to take up space in conversations, feel like an observer in your own life. You downplay your needs until they vanish. You attract emotionally unavailable partners. You feel deeply lonely even in relationships. You confuse independence with self-abandonment. You become low maintenance, and people love you for it. But here's the truth no one says out loud. Being low maintenance is often a trauma response. It means you learn not to ask, not to need, not to inconvenience. You didn't become strong, you became invisible. Healing this wound is not about becoming louder, it's about becoming present. It begins with self-witnessing, learning to notice your own emotions without dismissing them. It continues with reparenting, offering yourself the validation you never consistently received, saying internally, "I see you. Your feelings make sense. You don't need to earn presence." And slowly, painfully, courageously, you begin to take up space. You speak before rehearsing. You ask without apologizing. You allow yourself to be inconvenient. You allow yourself to be real. Because the truth is this: you were never invisible. You were simply not met. And now, as an adult, you get to choose differently. You get to exist without permission. You get to be seen first by yourself. And that is where the void finally begins to close. If this touched your invisible wound, share it with someone who needs to be seen, and subscribe to the Psyche Archive. You do not need permission to exist.